The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Insight Pitch with Skip Lockwood. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and Skip is with us, but not only that, he has a very special guest. How are you, Skip?
Yeah, I'm great, Ralph. Thank you. Thank you. My wife, Kathleen, is here with us today to talk a little bit about her book. But before we start, we had a very interesting week this week. We were invited out to Cooperstown in Hall of Fame, and we drove out there. It's at least a 6-hour drive for us, and stayed out there a couple of days. And the Hall of Fame has a bookstore, has a library, and they asked me to present my book and sign my book out there. So I did. And we had a wonderful time. We saw some old friends out there. We got a chance to go through the Hall of Fame very completely. It was quite a time, and very reinforcing. Everybody loved the book, and it was just a good time.
Oh, wow. How exciting, the Hall of Fame. Was this your first visit?
The Mets used to play an exhibition. I'm not sure whether it was an annual exhibition game or just one, but I know in '76 we played an exhibition game out there on one of the fields. They brought up some kids from the minor leagues to play the game, so we didn't cook our pitching staff. But I went through it at that time. Kathy went through it with my son years ago. My daughter went to Cornell, so on the way back from Cornell, they stopped in and briefly went through it. It's a big place. It's not a little place at all now. Many stores, and there's a big footprint, and many exhibits.
Was Pete Rose there?
There's an exhibit that has Pete's record for the most hits and a uniform and a glove and stuff like that, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. His tombstone is not in the Hall of Fame itself.
Okay, we haven't ever talked about this. What are your views on not only Pete Rose, but Shoeless Joe Jackson? Before I ask you about the PED era, who should be in the Hall of Fame there, let me ask you about the gambling first. Do you think you saw that sign every day of your life, basically, in the clubhouse? How do you feel?
I don't think that. I think that the Baseball Hall of Fame is more than just playing ability. I think it's a shrine that supports baseball, and also morality, and being able to play the game the right way and not cheat. I don't think players that cheated should be in the Hall of Fame, and I don't think players that bet against their team or gambled against their team should be in the Hall of Fame either. So even though I know Pete, and we played against each other for many years, and was a personal friend, I don't think he's going to be invited into the Hall of Fame.
Okay. That's a terrific answer. So you're standing up in front of basically book critics on one level or another. Was that scary at all?
I've given several talks that are book review kind of talks. I presented the book in New York on my way back.
Yeah, but this is the Hall of Fame, Skip.
Yeah, I know it. I don't think they were book critics as much as they were baseball fans. They were interested in the stories, and I told some that were in the book and some that weren't. I have fun. I try to, you know me, I'm trying to have as much fun as I can up there. I didn't find it nerve-wracking at all. I did talk for 45 minutes, which was, I found a little bit too long. But we had a signing afterwards, and it seemed to go well. You know, one story, I remember another story. And I tell two stories, and now there's another one comes along. I really know where I'm going with these things, and so I'm not sure it had much of a focus. And well, we got some good reviews. The guy that put it on is Bruce Markelson. I think
Bruce Markelson, yes.
Yeah, and he sent a very nice email after it was over saying that he thought that it was good, and he also had some feedback that some of the people that regularly go to these things thought it was one of the best of the summer. So I had good feedback and everything. So I just talked too long. You know how I get going.
No, I doubt that. I know now from personal experiences, you never can talk too long. You've got interesting stories, and they always have a point. Something can be gleaned from your experiences to help people, and it doesn't have to be in baseball. You talk about so much about preparation and intensity and what have you, and that carries over to whatever walk of life you're doing, business, personal stuff. It's great. It's great. Hey, let's hear from, I will not use the expression, your better half. I'm not going to use that one, but I haven't met her yet, so please introduce your wife.
This is, her maiden name was Murphy, and we've been married for a long time. What was it, Chico? Somebody said, somebody asked Chico, I forgot it was, what his wife's name was, and what was she like?
Johnny Logan.
Johnny Logan asked, I think it was Davey May, what his wife's name was and what was she like, and he said her name is Mrs. May and she likes me.
There was a Choo-Choo Coleman that was a catcher for the Mets, and he did an interview very similar to that on Kiner's Corner. My wife is Mrs. Coleman, and what does she like? She likes me. Great. Very nice to meet you. I got to hear your voice a little bit there.
Thank you. Well, I was very pleased when we went to the Hall of Fame that they had my book in the library, too. I didn't realize that it was archived in the library. So that was very gratifying to have that.
Well, I'm sure it is because, first of all, I had forgotten. I've been talking to Skip, as you know, for 6 months now, going on 6 months, and I had lost track of the fact that you had written a book, and all of a sudden it hit me, and I thought, wow, what a great guest you'll be, and so you are. How did you come about writing a book? How did that first get into your head?
We have stories all the time, and people always say, how glamorous was your life? And it's kind of funny looking back that it wasn't glamorous at all, and especially in the years that Skip pitched. And yet there was a lot of camaraderie and there was a lot of dedication and everything. And so at one point, I just started writing it down, and once it kind of took a life of its own. So the story I started to write ended up nothing like the story it ended up being, and I had a little trouble finding a publisher because most publishers wanted it to be a tell-all of, anything bad about anyone. And I said, that's not what my experience was. My experience with the families, very much like a military family. You've got your own village and your own community. And so what my focus on the book is how supportive all the wives are to each other, because the players, as Skip mentioned at Cooperstown, the people seem to be very engaged as to the different takes that we had on the book. But the player is, Hall of Fame hero, and he gets traded and he's on a plane and they're dying to see him, where the wife is behind and has to get rid of the apartment and clean out the refrigerator and do everything else. And
the kids transferring schools, running all of that.
But our children were younger, and so I never had to do that. But a lot of my friends did have to do that. And so there's just a very supportive community, or there was at the time that we played, where people just helped each other out and brought meals over and watched the kids and, would do whatever you could to support one another. So that's the focus of my book. And, the other theme that I had was that in order to be a great ball player, you had to be a little bit like Peter Pan and, never grow up, which meant the wife had to be a lot like Wendy and take care of all the details of the life. And that theme kind of followed through the book.
Well, that's a great analogy of a baseball player. Roy Campanella, I think, was the one that said it. You got to have that little boy in you, or it doesn't work. And the business aspect of it makes you grow up, unfortunately. And,
it does make you. And the reality, we got married. My title of my book was Major League Bride, and I graduated from a women's Catholic college in Boston area on a Wednesday and got married on Saturday. And so my life just changed entirely. I went from a very parochial setting to the world of baseball. And I was probably better not to know what you were getting into, because you could just enjoy the ride for about 5 or 10 years until you realized that it was more serious than you thought.
Yeah. I'm trying to verbalize a question as to the response you got from the other wives. Did you get? Did they say you captured it? You really got us. You got our situation. Did you get a lot of feedback, or how did they respond?
Those that read it, those that I heard from seemed to enjoy it a lot. Nancy Seaver and I were very close, and so we've been back and forth. You do lose contact with people, over the years, and but Marianne Sanders, who we played with the Sanders in both Milwaukee and California and the Mets, she loved the book and has passed it on to quite a few. And I did get a letter out of the blue from Deanne Torrey, who was Joe's wife at the time, thanking me for, showing the family side of the experience that we had.
Oh, very nice. We talked, Skip and I did last week about Tom Seaver and Nolan Ryan. And it was in the back of my mind. I couldn't and wouldn't ask Skip this, but I was a New Yorker and Met fan, or original New York Met fan, all that. And I was really, I loved the 1969 Mets when Nolan Ryan was a rookie and Tom Seaver was, all of that. And there were horrible rumors about Nancy Seaver and the Ryans, his wife.
And Ruth, yeah. So it's totally.
Did they not get along, or was that overblown in the press?
It was totally made up. I think we played with California for 1 year, and Ruth was probably one of my best friends in California, and she and Nancy were great friends, and they'd laugh about the press, because the press is just trying to make extra stories every now and then. But no, that's total rumors. They were very good friends, and still I know I've seen some pictures of the Ryans visiting the Seavers out in California. So, I think that's all made up.
Okay. that's not, as a Met fan and basically a Tom Seaver worshiper type thing. One of the saddest days of my life. Skip and I talked about it when that fateful day when Tom was, traded to Cincinnati and all of that. And I'm glad that it wasn't as a result. I'm glad the Ryans didn't leave New York as a result of not getting along with the Seavers.
Not at all. And actually, it was a really sad day when Tom left the team, too, because Nancy and I were very close. We lived right near each other. And I was actually staying at her house. Tom had gotten traded, and I was staying at her house the night that I delivered my first child. She drove me to the hospital, and we almost ran out of gas, and she had to leave later on for Cincinnati, so it was like a 3-ring circus. But
right. And
we were
and Skip lost his ride to the ballpark.
Right, I know.
So, oh wow, good memories. Am I right?
Oh yeah, great memories. We had wonderful times, and I think. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that the wives today aren't quite as friendly because there's too many layers that they have. We were all making between $10,000 and $15,000 in Milwaukee. Nobody had any money, so we had potluck dinners all the time, and there was so much camaraderie. Where I think nowadays people have too many commitments that they have to follow through with, and you can't enjoy the families as much.
How did you guys meet? How did you meet Skip?
We met actually at a college mixer. I went to a women's school, and he signed out of high school and went to college in the off season. So at that time, BC was a all-male school. So we used to bus in the players, and one of his good friends from high school convinced him to come. And we met at a college mixer my freshman year. We got married right after that. So right after college, so 4 years later.
Okay. Were there times in the baseball experience when you looked at each other and asked yourselves, really early on, because there has to be struggles with it all, was there ever a time where you had to think, are we going to go on with this? Or was there something that drove you to keep going? Anything that you could remember? A specific instance?
I think, there's a love of the game and there's a love of playing and challenging yourself. And, Skip just loved the game and loved to be out on the mound. So, when you have an injury, it was a setback, but it wasn't ever thinking that you're going to give up. I mean, he eventually had to leave the game because of an injury, but it wasn't really disillusionment or anything. It was just a matter of, wanting to go out and do the best you can and challenge yourself and, be in control, which is the toughest thing for a wife, that you're not in control. You're sitting there and you have to, as much as you would like to be in control, you have to sit and watch, and it's real difficult when somebody makes an error next to you, the wife's sitting next to you, and you have to kind of smile because you know that her husband didn't want to make the error. Everybody's trying to do their very best. So,
Kathy, you mentioned a support system that you received from the other wives. And not just you, but what goes around comes around, that type of thing. How does that work? Husbands are out of town, this, that, and the other thing. How does the community work?
It's just individual, one-on-one. There was no organization at all that put you up one another, but, you just kind of sit together every day at the game, and so you get, people are coming. You've got 25 different wives. You probably have something in common with 5 or 10 of them, but everybody's in the same boat. And, especially in California, the road trips were 2.5 weeks long, so it's a long time to be by yourself. So there's some people you get very friendly with that you have a lot in common. Other people are acquaintances, but you're in the same position. And so, I think most women are very supportive of each other, given the opportunity.
That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. It has to make it easier.
It does, yes. And everybody's been there, done that at different times, so either you're traded or they're traded, and, that you can appreciate what someone's going through. My daughter is married to a military person, and, Tara's always bringing dinners over to different people if they're deployed, because you just know you've been there, and now that you're fortunate, you help out somebody else. It's kind of a pay-it-forward system, I think, that works very well in this country. We need more of it.
Absolutely that. Let me ask you, when it came to writing the book, did you write at a specific time? Did you make an appointment with yourself, like I'm going to write from 9 to 2? Or did you write when the spirit hit you? Did you write down notes? What was it like to write a book for you?
Well, I had notes all over the place, but I generally got up and wrote in the morning for 2 or 3 hours before life got too crazy. We did have 5 children, and so I wrote more or less after the children were grown up. And at the time I was writing, one of my daughters, who's doing fabulous now, was sick for a while, so it was kind of therapeutic to do something positive, and get some writing and journaling always helps, put things into perspective. So I think it was a good discipline for me to get up and write for a few hours in the morning, and then sometimes the next morning you'd get rid of everything, and other times you'd take off in another focus. I had music playing all the time because I'm kind of a music person, and so I'd have music from the 60s, and it would just bring me back into where we were at that time, the 60s and the 70s.
Oh, wow. We have to mention that this is the week we lost the Queen of Soul.
Right.
Aretha, you mentioned 60s music. Can't think of anybody who really amplified, what 60s music was.
Right.
Found out today that she was never in Motown. She was not on that label, but she was certainly the Queen of Soul. Where would you prefer to live? I think I've asked Skip this before. You lived in the Midwest. You lived in California. And obviously from the East. If you weren't living in your hometown where you are, you're most comfortable, where would your baseball home, from the cities you lived in in the baseball circuit, which city would you choose to live?
Kind of a toss-up between Milwaukee and Greenwich, Connecticut, because we had a wonderful support and community in Greenwich, Connecticut, too. We started off the first 4 years we were in Milwaukee, and so that was an excitement, but the team never did well. And so it was a lot of fun and a lot of camaraderie, but you knew by, 4th of July that you were probably going to be in last place again. So there was a struggle there, not having the excitement of playing where Mets, even though we never were on a winning team, there was always, you felt that possibility.
Yeah. Under different circumstances, that team may have been in Seattle. And,
right.
I think you guys would have enjoyed Seattle. Just off the top of my head, I spent some time in the Northwest doing my Topps baseball card gig, where I'd go to the Northwest League and the California League and give out the $5 checks. And back in the 80s and 90s, I got to spend time in the Northwest, and it's beautiful, and it's a place where you would have enjoyed under different circumstances.
I'm pretty sure Skip played with the Pilots but we weren't married yet, and he said it was beautiful out there, and all the wives in Milwaukee, the Brewers became the Pilots became the Brewers. They all missed
right.
That beautiful spot. So.
Right. That's Skip's Pilot experience is something we've yet to talk about, and will in the near future. You're a delight. Thank you for a great interview.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for enjoying. I hope you get a chance to read my book. I'll put my husband back on. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
I will. Thank you. And if Skip is still there, would you put him back on?
I am here.
All right. All right. I hope I didn't embarrass you.
Not yet.
Okay. The day is young.
The day is young. We ought to talk about Seattle at some point in time. Maybe the next time we get together, talk a little bit about Seattle. They
Absolutely.
should have.
Hey, tell me you're still recuperating wonderfully. I'm hoping.
I'm doing fine. The operation's over. Able to exhale, and all the tests and everything are fine. So
good.
Now I'm going to get back into golf, which has been missing for the last couple of months. So the rest of the week is chock full of golfing events for me. I'm not sure how well.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you shot your age last time you played.
I did in Florida, and Kathy reminded me this last week because I had a birthday. Kathy reminded me that shooting my age has gotten easier this week.
That's what's that? Serendipity? Is that the word for that?
Something.
All right, Skip. So we'll do it again next week, same time, same bat station. Would you thank Kathy? She is charming.
I will. Thank you, Ralph. Take care.
All right. Be well. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are back. One of my favorite segments, New York Mets baseball, past, present, future. I've got Marty Rose and Robert Cole here. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing good, Ralph.
Very well.
Good.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right. It's been a nice week. Your daughter's all settled in her new place, Marty. Am I correct?
Yes, she is. I'm sitting right here on the balcony right now, and very, very nice. Yeah, she's doing well at the new job, and the only thing left is for daycare to start to get the baby in there. So
when does that start?
Right after Labor Day. Right after Labor Day. So.
Okay. Well, you'll get a vacation.
Yeah. I need it.
All right. Yeah.
So does the baby.
No, she does. She does. You're right. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be fun for her with kids.
Oh yeah. Well, she was in daycare before, in Jacksonville, but now there's no openings until after Labor Day at this place. So yeah, they're very structured. Every 15, 20 minutes they're doing something different. So
right.
She's not sitting here with Grandpa watching Mickey Mouse and Vampirina and all this other stuff on the Disney Channel,
Right. Well, you can get her school ready and have her pick up the Newtown pace.
There you go.
Newtown March from 91st Street, Northern Boulevard, to one hellhole of an institution, I might add. Anyway, let's talk a little Met baseball. Start with you, Robert. What do you like? It's going so nice. We're talking off the air a little bit that there's some speed coming in. It's a nice streak these last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, they played 8 games this past week, 5-3, which we haven't been able to say for a long, long time. Started last Monday with Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom came back again on Saturday, pitched another gem, and they're starting to hit. The 24-run outburst on Thursday is a mirage, but overall they're starting to hit. They're starting to score some runs, and looking like a much better team.
I'm amazed. actually, because it was going in such a direction that nothing seemed to be going right. They were getting hurt every 10 minutes, and knock wood, it seems like there have been no disasters of late, especially on that starting pitching staff, which Mats isn't panning out the way we hoped. But you take the top three, Wheeler, Thor, and DeGrom, it's really looking nice.
And even Vargas had himself a decent game last night.
Yeah, which makes all three of them staying healthy for as long a period of time as I can remember in the last year and a half. All three guys. Wheeler especially, six wins in a row or something like that, and that's very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, he's learned to control his stuff now. You know, they were just remarking earlier in the game how his strike to ball count is tremendous. It's much better than it's ever been, and he's starting out almost every batter with a strike, and it's a lot easier to pitch that way than from behind.
He seems to be pitching to contact and not wasting a lot of pitches.
Yes.
And
speaking about Mats, that's what Mats has to start doing. Mats' pitch count goes up so high, so early, that he's behind the eight ball almost right away.
Does his arm he seems healthy? Am I correct? That's not the issue.
Well, he's only had 2 starts since he came back from his problem, so it's hard to say. At this point, I don't think he's got any arm problems this moment, but he's only had, I think, 2 starts.
All right, and let's start with the position players. Marty.
The offense has really picked up lately. I mean, having McNeil at the top of the order, and Rosario is showing something.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes,
and he's like they say, he's just a baby. He's got a lot yet to improve, and him and McNeil at the top of the order, and Flores has been solid. Even Frazier has been hitting lately. So, and even Plawecki has been hitting better than usual lately. So, I think, even with Nimmo out and Conforto really not doing much, they've got a bunch of hits and they're putting some runs on the board for these guys, which is great.
It helps the Jackson. They picked up Jackson, and that really is the difference.
Okay, Jackson and McNeil, came in together pretty much. Frazier came back, and after a week or so, he's starting to hit, and that's really made a big difference. And you're right, Plawecki's also started hitting suddenly too. So.
Yeah. Very nice.
It almost seems like a baseball team. Yeah.
Almost.
I can see them getting back to 500 by the end of the year. Is that?
Well, that's going to take a lot. I'd love to see that, but like I said last week, it's almost a two-edged sword. With this ownership. All of a sudden, they turn it around. They start playing well. They get Bruce back. Everybody's healthy. And all of a sudden, ownership says, oh, well, let's go the same way we ended the year next year. And I think that would be a mistake.
Right. You've got to add to it.
Yes.
No question.
I mean, the bullpen especially. I mean, we've talked about that all season, right, Marty? I mean.
No question about it. Yeah, the bullpen has been awful, and they've had their injuries. I mean, like you said the other day, even with the savior, he started to pitch well, and all of a sudden he's hurt again. I mean, he had a couple of outings there where he looked good as the closer, and then he goes down. I have no idea who this Zamora kid is. He came from right up from Binghamton.
They picked him up in a trade. I'm trying to remember who they made the trade for. In spring training, that big lefty that they had last year, big lefty relief pitcher. I can't remember his name. But they made a trade in spring training, and they got him.
Okay. So this guy comes in. He's a left-hander. He's not very big. He doesn't throw that hard. It looks like he throws a breaking pitch on every pitch, and they just can't hit it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to last, but looks good so far. And
Levens has come around a little bit.
Oh, Bam
right,
Bam, finally starting to get lefties out too.
Right.
Yeah.
Or correct.
Yeah, and with Lugo and Gazelman, that's not bad. If you start to go your 7 innings, you're not in bad shape now with some of these guys.
Yeah. Well,
we're really hurt by Vargas not giving them anything. If not as a starter, as a long guy or whatever.
Well, he finally looked halfway decent last night.
Yeah, he looked good last.
Maybe he can build on that because they're saying they're going to keep him in the rotation and put Oswalt in the bullpen. So, I guess maybe he'll just pick it up a notch from last night. Could help.
Yeah. You guys mentioned Pilecki. That's a pleasant surprise, and I think perhaps he was pushed when Harvey was traded for the catcher.
Mesoraco. Yeah.
He felt that way, and he's coming out. He's still young himself.
Oh yeah. So I don't think Mesoraco's going to be back next year. I think they'll have Plawecki, they'll have Nito in camp, and I know they got a guy in I think St. Lucie that might get invited to camp just to see what he looks like.
Yeah, they have 2 catchers in St. Lucie that look
Sanchez.
fairly decent.
Yeah.
I think one guy is Sanchez, I think his last name is.
Yeah, Ali Sanchez, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And speaking about St. Lucie, yesterday Jay Bruce and David Wright both played in Dunedin against the Dunedin Blue Jays for St. Lucie. David Wright got his first 2 hits in his comeback attempt, played 5 innings at third base, and Bruce played the entire 9 innings as DH and got 2 hits. And supposedly Bruce will be back, I think, Wednesday or Thursday.
That's good. Very good.
They're planning to play him at first base, are they?
That's what the word was back when he was down in St. Lucie. He has played first base in the past, and he's lefty. Flores is righty, so
he could platoon with Lugo, or he could platoon with Bautista until Nimmo comes back. I don't know how. Haven't heard much about him. They said it was just a bad Bruce.
You meant Flores, not Lugo.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Flores, and Bruce at first.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, Bautista and Bruce. I'm sorry. Yeah, and Bruce and Wright until Nimmo comes back, and I haven't heard a damn thing about that except there was a bruise, and he's still not playing. So
they put him on the DL today.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Right,
they put him on the DL today. Well, you know the Mets training staff. Everything's good. It's just a bruise, and then he'll be out for 2 months.
Right.
Yes.
It's just a bruise. I remember they said that to Bo Jackson, and they wrote a book about it. It's just a bruise.
Yeah.
And
a hip replacement later.
The end of one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen.
Yep.
God, that guy.
I still remember that play. I still remember the play he got hurt on, Ralph, dragging the guy.
Was it running up the
sideline?
Which one was it?
Sideline.
Yeah, okay.
Up the sideline, and he dragged the guy hanging onto his leg for about 30 yards. And that just damaged the hell out of his hip. He was never the same after that.
Yeah. I wonder what he would have been as a baseball player. I mean, I still see him climbing that wall, just running up like Spider-Man.
Oh, in the All-Star game, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That great athlete. I hate to see great athletes hurt by injuries. Looking back, how sad it was with Mantle. Can you imagine how Mantle would have been had he not stepped in that drain?
Yeah, 1951.
Yeah. Ball hit by
But he never truly was healthy. You know, when you think about it, he never truly was healthy his entire career.
And he never had any idea about rehab or any of that.
No.
It was either it wasn't in vogue particularly, or he'd screw it up worse by having golf carts turn over on him and stuff like that. And just a shame, really.
Yeah.
Because
they didn't really know much about rehab back then. I mean, imagine with Sandy Koufax if they had Tommy John surgery back then.
Yeah, it might have been something arthroscopic even.
Right.
Yeah.
He had an arthritic elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said you could possibly, if you continue to pitch, you could lose all use of the arm, and they said you won't be able to pick up your kids. I remember that, and he says, hey, it's not worth it. And it's probably right.
Yeah.
Yep.
In that sense. So I had an interesting conversation with Mert this week on the text thing, and we're talking about DeGrom's place in history now, in Met history, and Mert says it's Seaver, Gooden, and DeGrom at this point. We never mentioned Koosman. Do you think at this point DeGrom has passed Koosman in the battle or whatever?
Koosman had a little more longevity, but I think in effectiveness when you're looking at strikeouts and ERA, and throwing that hard, I think I would have to say yes. I think he would be over Koosman. I mean, David Cohn was good too, but he wasn't there long enough to.
Yeah, I mean, even Gooden, Gooden was outstanding, but for a short period of time. If DeGrom stays healthy, he's going to shoot past him as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah. If they
it was
him.
Nice to see a complete game. That was
great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was great. Great. Yeah.
Just to say somebody did it, for crying out loud. If I'm not mistaken, that's the first complete game by a Met this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Gotta be.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
And you know what was nice about it? What was nice about it too is, Friday night, Nola pitched against the Mets, and I had to watch it on the Philly channel, and the Philly announcers are making a big case for Nola, for Cy Young, and then DeGrom comes right back the next day, and just really puts an exclamation point on his, his credentials, and it was really nice to see.
Yeah, nice to see them playing a first division team head to head. Yeah, they're nothing to be ashamed of the way they've been playing for like 3 series in a row, and that's a pleasure. I mean, we all were we were just getting tired of tuning in night after night.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing to look forward to is the announcement of who went on the DL. Oh, you go, wow, now I see why he sucked for the last 4 weeks. He's hurt. And that's what was crazy making about it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's become fun again.
Oh, this past week almost made me giddy. After, Marty, how many times have I say to you, like in the 6th and 7th inning, good night?
Yeah, no, I know. Absolutely.
Sometimes I think, is this something, is it masochistic to take on all this pain? Why do you want to do it night after night? And now that it's turned around, I look forward to it. I get up in the morning, 4:30 here, 7:30 there, that type of thing. And it's nice.
Remember there was some woman, I think it was on Twitter, that was so happy that she went to Washington to see the Mets, and it was the Mets game, and there was the game where they gave up. How many runs was it? 25 or something?
Runs. Yeah.
Something like that. And the woman was so happy that she was tweeting that they got great seats and they went to see the Mets in Washington. So I tweeted back, I'm glad you're enjoying it. So hope you enjoyed yourself at the game. You got one to remember to your grandchildren. But I was able to turn it off in the first inning. Sorry, you had to sit there for the whole 9. They were losing 7-0 in the first inning. I think it was.
Yep.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I just as you were saying earlier today, I clicked it off right then. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's really gotten a lot.
On the other hand, let's make note of the Mets and Phillies playing at the Little League World Series.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was
very
good.
Terrific. Not only did they play good ball, but you saw the kids interact with the Mets in the Mets pitchers. That I saw Syndergaard and a few other guys.
It was the four of them that weren't pitching. The other starters all sat in a row.
Sitting in the stands with the ball player. Those kids are going to remember that for the rest of their lives.
Oh,
you know what happened? The Mets were supposed to get there yesterday early enough to watch Staten Island play, and they didn't. They got there late, and so they said they all felt bad. So those 4 guys took it upon themselves to walk up into the stands in like the second inning, sit there for about 3 or 4 innings. That says a lot about those guys.
That was nice.
And also, it says a lot about management because them and the Phillies and baseball, they're giving up a payday. The team to do this, it's a great investment in the future. I got to hear Manafort, the commissioner, give an interview, sitting in the stands with the kids.
You mean Manfred, not Manafort.
Manfred.
Manfred, yeah.
Rod Shandling, Gary Chandler, all these names. Manfred drops dead tomorrow. You're going to call me early in the morning, and you're going to go, it's my fault. It's my fault. I jinxed it. But, so he should live forever. But he is a comfortable guy. One of those guys that you wouldn't mind sitting at the ballpark and talking baseball with. He's certainly maybe all the bad commissioners we've had recently that come to mind, Bowie Kuhn and Bud Selig. This guy's has.
He's like a regular guy, in other words.
Regular guy, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
it is.
that's good for baseball. And they are doing things. I listened to him talk. They're doing things to win fans, win kids over, and it's great. I like that. So I was enthused. It's been a good week. What do we have coming up this week? We got the Giants now. Anything that you see newsworthy?
Newsworthy. Well, for the rest of the year, of course, we have to watch Syndergaard and his quest for the Cy Young. That's going to become very, very interesting, I think.
You meant DeGrom.
DeGrom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, DeGrom. Yes.
Yeah,
Boy, we're all doing well with our names tonight, aren't we?
Can you imagine me doing the correcting for you guys? This internet radio's Space Cadet does it correcting. The moon is in a very special place, I guess. My moon is in Milpitas, where so yeah, if we watching him go down the stretch, as low an ERA, we talked about Gooden and Seaver. I don't think they've ever had an ERA of 171.
No.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. Any word on Mejia? He was taken off suspension, or
he's down he's down in one of the Latin American leagues, playing for one of the teams that the Mets support, I think, down either in the Dominican or someplace.
There's a Dominican Academy summer. They call it Dominican Summer League, and I think he's in that.
Okay.
Yeah, he is.
Not using anything.
Yeah, he is pitching there. Yeah, true. So who knows?
We hope he's behaving himself with all the children and all the temptations of life that people seem to have in the Met organization. And not just the children. We get a lot of needles that could accidentally sit on one. He would have no idea how it happened, of course, and he would be just as shocked as anybody else. He would deny it, and he'd appeal it for a while, so he'd get another few appearances in, and that would be it.
Oh, something that we need to mention, too, yesterday was a very important date in Met history, even though the Mets still weren't even born yet. Yesterday was the day that the New York Giants, voted to accept San Francisco's bid to move to San Francisco in 1958. And that led the way to, of course, the Mets eventually.
Yeah,
it was one vote against.
Yes,
moving.
one vote against.
Miss Payson.
That vote was Mrs. Payson, right?
That's it. Very
She,
true.
She, of course,
it seems like a long time ago. It was 1958.
It was a long time ago.
It just seems like it. It wasn't really. It just seems like it.
Yeah.
I was playing punchball in the alley.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
My mother would, right about now, my mother would be calling me in to get ready for bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, we were like 11.
12 years old.
Yeah.
Old enough. It was the winter. I remember when Campy got in that tragic.
Oh yeah, in Glen Cove, the accident. Yep.
Right. That took. Not only were the Giants and Dodgers leaving, but that tragedy hits, and we were just as fans, as National League fans, we just wandered. I mean, I rooted for the Braves in that World Series in '57 really hard.
Oh, so did I. I rooted National League all the time.
Right. first time I rooted American League was in 1965 when the Twins were playing the Dodgers.
Wow.
When the Yankees played the Dodgers, I didn't know who to root for. It was tough.
You sat that one out, huh, Ralph?
I sat that one out. I would not take a dog in that race, or whatever the expression is. I'm glad these years went so quickly. 60 frickin' years. Is it 60 or 70? 60. Thank God it's 60.
Yes. Yes.
Right. But all right. So let's agree to look back upon this date 60 years from now, and we can say, well, that was 120. Well, never mind. All right, guys. Let's even though we're day to day, let's make sure we're here next week. You got it.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Thank you, guys. This is always fun. It's not easy being a Met fan, but this was a good week. And
it was
easier this week. Yes, it was easier this week.
And I was right. That big win against the Yankees, in that makeup game, felt really good.
Yes, it did. Yeah. Really good.
Yeah. So we'll do it next week. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, Ralph. Have a good week. See you, Robert.
All right. Adios, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back when we're back.